Coming up on today's episode, Robert's tell-all journey to Korea, deep inside the world of Samsung. The top 5 shows on Mr. Heron's TV, how cold is too cold for an HDTV, and the Blu-ray releases for the week of December 1st, 2009. This is HD Nation.
HD Nation.
Today's episode is brought to you by Netflix, Squarespace, and GoDaddy.com.
Welcome to HD Nation. I'm Robert Heron.
And I'm Patrick Norton. HD Nation is your guide to the best in HD content and the best in home theater gear, no matter what your budget is. Blu-ray, online, satellite, cable, over-the-air, hard drive, thumb drive, and it's in HD. We likes it.
Yes, we do.
Back. Where's my kimchi? How is Korea?
Customs took my kimchi.
Really?
The flight and the travel and the trip was awesome. And what was the third question? I don't know.
Where's my kimchi?
The kimchi. It's still in Korea, unfortunately. We need to find some California kimchi.
That's easy. I could have brought that myself.
Well.
So, okay, tell me about you. Samsung flies you over.
Yes, they did. They wanted me to take a look at the innard workings of Samsung's visual display division.
Will we ever be able to trust your reviews of LCD flat panels again?
I think so. I think you should. It gives me a better insight into how that company does what they do, and it is a ginormous operation. A huge country. They have facilities located all over the place, and basically we were able to then go in and look at, but not touch or take pictures of pretty much anything.
Did you actually see, sand comes in at one end and LCD flat panels
Yes.
come out at the other?
Essentially, exactly.
Did they let you take pictures?
No, not at one. And we had men in black essentially following us around the entire time going, no photos, no nothing. Take a picture of the outside of the building, go ahead. I'm hoping they will provide us with some good video. They're working on this right now, actually. But they provide us with some video clips and some pictures of some of the sensitive areas, including where the LCD panel is born and a few other places, too. And the assembly line is really what I want to show off as well.
I mean, do they roll it out like they do with glass when they're making windshields or window glass? But how do they pour? What did it look like? What can you tell us?
It starts with
the
the giant sheets of transparent material, the mother glass, as they call it. That is actually the TF. No, it's flat sheets. Corning is a big partner in all of this. Of course, they're the glass masters of the world. These large sheets are the thin film transistor that is integrated into there, the transparent thin film transistor. Those get carved up into the individual panel sizes that you go for. They start with giant sheets, cut them down to the size they need for the TVs. Those then go into basically the robotics room, where robots and other machines take that and run it through the various processes, adding things like polarizers, electronic components, machines that add all of that together.
So they layer everything up?
It is.
When do they solder all the leads onto it?
A lot of it's actually done with. See, now I'm wondering what I can talk about at this point.
Don't say it. I don't want you disappeared.
But some of the stuff too that we take for granted, like Samsung made a big deal about their touch of color technology for the bezel system. That turned out to be a big deal, and they have these machines that are about the size of a locomotive. That I actually have pictures of that I can show you. But these machines actually bring together and do the injection molding for the clear, transparent edge. It gets flipped over, and then immediately the darker materials or the colored materials then get added to that to create that border. But that's just for the frame design. Some of the coolest stuff to me was watching the assembly workers actually sit there and put that TV together, take all the components from all the various places, the panel, the electronics, all of it, bring it all into one package, and then screw it all together.
It's a classic assembly line where all these different things sort of collide in this one long row, or each individual puts one part on the thing.
No, I was kind of surprised. This took me right back to an old manufacturing job I had out of college, where you're basically at your station and you're responsible for checking it all out, putting it all together, screwing it together, and then a couple of machines actually test the panels right there before they move on from that point, including full calibration of the display, actually tweaking the grayscale balance of the panel before it even goes on. And then boom, right into a boxing system, packaged, and then right out the door.
Now, I understand, was this your first helicopter ride, or was there something particularly?
No, I've been on helicopters before.
Helicopter ride.
When is that not exciting? Some of the places, too, were so far. The first facility, Tangjong, we ended up visiting, is so far south of Seoul that it would have taken a few hours to drive down there. And then we were going to a place about an hour south of Seoul called Suwon. And that was where they
helicoptered you around?
Just to those two facilities for the first day. They really laid out the red carpet the first day. The other days we're in just standard minivans. Oh, not very nice.
Here's
minivans.
your cheese sandwich.
But that was gives you good perspective too in terms of how big these places are. The place where the actual LCD is manufactured is referred to lovingly as Crystal Valley. It's in the middle of grape country.
Right.
The farmers around in the area actually they're worried about the environment like anyone. turns out that Samsung buys most of the grape production in the area, so then they can actually turn it into everything from grape juice to whatever. But just to show that, you know what?
Samsung branded grape juice?
They're comfortable eating the food in that area because that's how clean everything is kept. And I was also impressed too with just the living conditions for some of the workers at Samsung. They have these literally cities built for the workers to be near the facility, because sometimes you're out in the middle of nowhere. But they take care of the families in terms of providing education and some of the learning programs.
So it's after the Japanese model.
I think so to some degree, but it also stunned me pretty much
Corporate
straight
socialist.
up. Was that how many women are in the upper echelons of management within the company? That was just refreshing to see, and the attitudes of everyone I saw. A bunch of happy 20-somethings working these places, as well as families. And
were there any old people?
Yes,
okay.
there were.
I just want to make sure they're not, recycled or
honored elders.
That's
without a doubt.
Logan's Run reference. For
But
those of you
this is
who
just a
haven't seen it.
taste. I will hopefully have some good video to show you guys and good pictures. I have to get everything approved basically before I say it, because we did see some stuff that's a couple of years out.
Right.
That, in my opinion, is awesome. I'd love to be able to talk about it and show it, but I want to make sure I'm doing right by them first.
Cool.
Yeah.
That, by the way, wasn't a Logan's Run reference. Soylent Greens is an entirely different movie. You actually got your shiny, happy disc from Netflix.
I did.
For your PS3.
I got this in the mail right before I left for the trip to Korea. I'll let you open it.
Thank you.
I don't have to return that, so you can shred the
Is this
the
in
packaging.
exchange for not giving me any kimchi?
You know, kimchi is good.
Kimchi's really good.
Tasty stuff. But yes, the PS3 disc for my Netflix streaming service has arrived. And I actually dragged my PS3 in. You just tear the end off.
I know, I'm having a moment here. I was trying to be all, tasteful about it.
Now this one I don't need to return anything in, so I'm golden there. Ta-da! The red disc.
Wow.
The red disc for the PS3. So apparently some people are, wondering, ooh, will I brick my PS3 performing this update? Is this difficult to do? And I haven't updated my PS3 since I received this disc, so I figured, why not try it right here, right now?
Best part, use every time to watch instantly. Do not return disc to Netflix. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
More waiting.
Our choices are being updated.
Uh-oh, I'm afraid of what's in my queue.
Bullet!
Just stuff that's been in my queue for quite a while that
Drunken Master?
Drunken Master.
THX 1138?
I haven't seen that either.
Braveheart.
Jackie Chan as young man. Braveheart I never saw. Hey, let me just hit, what should I play?
Bullet's good. Or, what do you want, Raj? Okay.
Let's go with Bullet. Resume playing. Clearly, I've looked at this before. I think on my TiVo I was streaming this.
Steve McQueen's 1968 classic has a car chase that defined a generation through the hills of San Francisco. Will it be on the car chase, or did you fall asleep much, much earlier?
It should be in the early credits. I don't think I got very far into it. So the thing I'm curious to see is we're doing this over a wireless connection,
right.
A fairly fast wireless connection. We had at least 7 megabit
Well, it's
down.
Funny. Our internet
2.5
connection here,
megabit up.
If you do a hardwired Ethernet test, is 30 megabits down and 48 megabits up.
Here's that. I'm just curious, what is it saying?
It's actually scaling pretty well.
So, well, this is not HD. It says it's in
yeah.
480p. Let me turn down the volume just a little bit.
Sorry, I love that
And
song.
the TV's taking care of the scaling beyond that. Well, the PS3, I guess. No. It's actually sending out native resolution right to the TV, which is
Doing
great.
a pretty good job.
So if you're using a scaler or you want the TV to handle that sort of thing. So, that was painless, people. Nothing to fear from the PS3 disc. It will be nice once the software is actually integrated into the interface of the PS3 rather than requiring a separate disc. That'll be great. That'll probably come early next year.
Or is there some sort of technical issue there?
The rumor I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, and I'd be curious to know, is that Microsoft had a deal that the only place with Netflix, that the only place you could have Netflix streaming software on a game console, it was locked into the 360 for a while. So as soon as that little deal is over with, then ta-da, it'll be coming to the PS3 as part of the integrated feature set.
Sorry, 67 Lincoln gets me excited. Coming up next, people, we're going to take a look at what new releases are coming out this week and what shows are on the top of Robert Heron's TiVo list that he's eagerly awaited. Watching since he got back from Korea. All right, let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Netflix, people. Wow, that's kind of a nice tie-in. If you're looking for a place to find a great selection of Blu-ray discs, look no further than our next sponsor, Netflix. With Netflix, you can rent over 90,000 titles online, including a ton of Blu-ray titles with free shipping both ways to and from your home. They now have over 40 shipping centers, so almost all deliveries happen in a single business day. Plans start at $4.99 for DVDs. As a new member, you can get a no-risk 2-week free trial membership. Check it out at www.netflix.com/HDNation, and please remember to type the www when using this code. Support HD Nation by supporting our sponsors like Netflix. Both Rob and I live by our DVRs. Me, I'm a parent. I never get to watch TV the good stuff while the sun's awake. And Rob, well, he's Rob. So we rarely catch our HD shows right when they air. And a DVR is critical for us to catch up. In fact, with Mr. Heron being out of the country recently, well, we wanted to know what the top 5 shows that Robert was waiting for on his TiVo at home. What's at the top, Mr. Heron?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll have to say these are in no particular order, just some of my absolute favorite shows that I come and I check out on a regular basis. And at the top, I'd have to say it's Frontline.
I don't believe you.
PBS's investigative journalism show. That is just excellent reporting. I mean, it's I don't watch ratings-driven broadcast news on your major networks. I just don't. I like to be happy.
You don't like the 24-hour news cycle?
Yeah. No.
What's second on your list?
Anyway, Nova. Nova does a lot of great programming. It's also on PBS. You notice the theme here. I love PBS. And they have everything that covers, Nova covers a lot of science content, and I love that. And they have their Science Now content that's especially, I think it's great for kids, and it's also just fascinating material just to take a look at, including some of the, recently I'd have to highlight the Mars. They did, it's been 5 years now with the Mars rovers on the planet. They have a new animation where you basically, it is so beautiful, you basically feel like you're standing on Mars and reliving the path the rovers had taken.
Cool.
Motorsports. I'm a big motorsports fan, so I just lump, say, NASCAR and MotoGP into one big lump and say, you know what, there's a lot of good HD goodness in terms of my motorsports recording. It takes up quite a bit.
I have this vision of you now, like you know, home from Korea to the airport, picking up the pallet of Fritos from Costco and then like jamming to like 12 hours.
My one mistake was I can dump content off my TiVo to my hard drive, and I didn't take a couple of races I wanted to watch with me on the road, which now I'm slapping myself for not doing that. But anyway, number 4, just fourth on my list would be How It's Made. It's a great channel, or a great show on the Science Channel HD. There's a lot of content I watch on Science HD as well. How It's Made is just one of those shows where you want to know how a pool cue is made, you want to know how an engine's put together, or how this particular product is made, from pencils to high-tech products, and it's just a nice background on that kind of stuff.
It's fun.
And this is just a personal favorite of mine. I'm just going to throw it out there, but I'm a Smallville fan. I have been, at least
since
I'm a
Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan.
Graduated
you can own
high
up
school.
to watching Smallville.
The show has taken a serious upturn since the high school days, and right now, I think it's just some of the best, I don't know, fantasy storytelling, or just, you know, showing the origins of a super character, like Superman in particular. So I think it's fun, and this is what's on my list. And I'd have to say honorable mentions to anything that's on the National Geographic Channel. It's just great content for the family.
Their high-def stuff is obscenely good.
Exactly. These are all in HD. The World's Toughest Fixes, Ultimate Factories has to be one of my absolute favorite shows. Oh, that's just the tour of everything from the Caterpillar factory, where they make the big heavy equipment, to the Rolls-Royce plant, to see how detailed it is in terms of car construction. Incredible. Comedy Central has their HD programming now. Not everything's in HD, but hey, they're there. And of course, History Channel.
Which is, are they still smirshing the
Some of it, but they have some new good that's full HD content now. And I have to highlight, I think it's World War II in HD. Oh. Holy cow, the series just started up, and it's impressive. And they have the veterans who are still around giving their perspective with good voice acting as well. And it's just awesome.
Cool. Check that one out.
Of course, I had to do more than just 5, but there you go. And please don't ding me for Smallville. I love my Smallville. Anyway.
Stepping away from Smallville, let's talk about the new releases for December 1st, 2009. My desert racing buddies Curtis and Klaus have released DP7 on Blu-ray. It's the 7th in their long-running series of desert racing mayhem. We're talking Baja 1000. Shot so beautifully you can actually taste the dust. You can find it at desertpeople.com. That's desert with a Z. It's a big day for Guy Ritchie fans like me. Both Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels are now available in Blu-ray. The Wizard of Oz Emerald Edition previously was only available at Target, is now available everywhere. It includes all the disc-based content that the Ultimate Collector's Edition had, but without the collectibles or the digital copy, which means it costs less. Be sure to check out the Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter from Criterion, which documents the Stones as they played a free concert near San Francisco in 1969. You may have heard of it called Altamont, which is what happens when You hire the Hells Angels to do security. It ends up being chaos and violent, and some consider it to mark the end of the peace and love era of the 60s. Temper that mayhem with Paper Heart, a charming love story written by and starring Charlene Yee with Michael Cera as they play fictionalized versions of themselves. If that's a little too sappy for you, check out Terminator Salvation with Christian Bale in all his robo-destroying glory. Other releases for the week include the Criterion Collection edition of A Christmas Tale, Ben 10 Alien Swarm, Death Warrior, The Green Mile, Gremlins, The Mask of Zorro, Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, Ride Around the World in IMAX, and Secondhand Lions.
Coming up next, what happens when you freeze your HDTV? But first, let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Squarespace. You can now manage your entire Squarespace website on the go with the new Squarespace iPhone application. Post and edit entries, manage content, save drafts, preview your updates, and more, all directly from your iPhone. Snap a photo with your phone and upload it directly to your Squarespace site instantaneously. Want to check on your view counts? The iPhone app has all the stats available. Unique visits, page views, popular search terms, RSS subscribers, and the top referrers are all right there under the Stats tab. So even if you're not at your desk, you can keep your website up to date. All you need is your iPhone. And if you're just starting out with Squarespace, be sure to use the code HDNation when you check out, and you'll get 10% off the lifetime of your order. Check it out at squarespace.com.
We got a message from the Heartland. Jeff writes in, my dad has an LCD TV in his 3-season room, and he wants to install another one in his garage. He lives in Iowa where the winter temperatures get well below zero. The garage is usually 32 degrees or above, but the 3-season room is not heated. Should he take the 3-season room TV down? Would the garage be okay? What are the temperature ranges supported by most HD TVs? Thanks, Jeff. This is a great question because more and more people, and it's not super common, but I've seen people putting, like, for football games out on the patio, like an HDTV, and in the garage. It's going to be cold this winter.
It can, definitely.
So, 32 degrees, it's well below the operating temperature of most LCD TVs, or plasmas for that matter.
Yeah.
If it's cold out, you should not try to run your HD TV.
But for storage, though, you can take it down to, they're claiming, most manufacturers will say you can take it down to 4 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit, or about negative 20 degrees Celsius, which is pretty darn cold. So the key is if it's going to be that cold and you want to turn it on, I'd suggest warming it up to at least the minimum operating temperature. And some manufacturers are saying 32 degrees or freezing, or a little bit warmer than that, upwards of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's really the key to it, is before you turn it on. And condensation is a killer for these products. So if you're dealing with a humid room where water is starting to form on products or on your TV.
If there's frost on the wall,
don't turn it on.
Yeah, let the room, especially you're going up to, a lot of people have ski cabins, they throw the HDTV in the trunk. Let it sit inside for a few hours, come up to room temperature, because if you turn it on, it gets hot suddenly from being cold. Condensation can really screw up the electronic innards.
Totally.
Yeah.
And as far as heat goes, it's really not so bad. 104 degrees are what most manufacturers claim roughly for operating conditions. If you're going to be storing it, up to about 140 degrees. So just keep them out of the sauna. That's essentially the good advice there. And I wouldn't expose any electronics product to direct sunlight for long periods of time either if you're storing a product. Don't put it in the window or near a window, or at least throw a sheet over it.
We're going to thank one of our sponsors, ladies and gentlemen, GoDaddy.com. Get reliable, secure web hosting without the long-term contract. GoDaddy's hosting plans are bigger and better than ever with 99% uptime, free 24/7 support, and no annual commitment. Keep your personal information away from spammers, hackers, and that crazy ex-roommate. Private domain registration from GoDaddy.com protects your privacy by keeping your address, phone number, and more out of the public database. Now, want to get a discount? Use the code HDN1 to get 10% off your entire order. Some restrictions do apply. See the GoDaddy site for details, and be sure to check out revision3.com/GoDaddy for all the HD Nation GoDaddy deals and codes. Please get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com and use one of those HDN codes when you do. You'll be helping us out. Let's go back into the email pile. Francis writes in, I recently purchased a 54-inch Panasonic V10 plasma, and I'm loving it. My other components include the PS3, a Panamax M5400, and a Yamaha YSP4000, which act as my surround sound and receiver. I was thinking about installing some type of bias lighting behind my setup. I'd like to get your opinion of the pros of a bias lighting system and how it can benefit the home theater experience. Is bias lighting where you basically put a lamp behind your screen?
That's it exactly.
Is that because it's really painful to go from a brightly lit screen to a really dark room?
It's sometimes that. It can add a little bit of light, especially if the picture's uncontrollably bright. Then that helps tame basically the appearance of it to your eyes, so that it's not so that border of the frame to the back of the room isn't such a drop off in terms of luminance.
I mean, so bias lighting actually is for other than really, it serves a purpose in situations other than a really dark room?
I think one of the best things to do with bias lighting in a dimly lit environment is for TVs that have poor black levels, meaning that the color of black, when you see like the letter boxes on movies, it appears not quite black, but say grayish or bright, and it's not as dark as it could be. Adding a bias light actually it gets your eye to basically iris down a little bit, and then it makes that black appear even darker. And it improves the perception of contrast on a TV that has poor contrast performance.
Because my old television, if we turned all the lights out, you'd be like black on the screen. You'd be like, no, that's black over there where the books are supposed to be behind it.
So for those types of situations, I find it quite useful. If you're going to install a bias light, though, of some kind, it should be a neutral gray color, and the color temp you're trying to shoot for is about 6,500 Kelvin. That's it's not too blue, it's not too red as far as a shade of gray goes. And it's important that you don't want a colored light bulb.
That seems very high. I'm usually thinking like the sunlight, faux sunlight one's usually around 4,000 K.
That's pretty warm as far as TV goes. Broadcast television, as it's produced, and the DVD and the Blu-ray movies we look at are all done to that 6,500 Kelvin standard.
I'm just thinking
for white balance.
The last time I was buying a big stack of bulbs to go in the garage, everything seemed to be like 3,100, 4,000 K.
Check it out. I'm not sure if they're using maybe a different standard for that, but for TVs, that's specifically what I'm thinking of right there. And if you do it, usually they come in the form of a fluorescent tube, and then that can go behind your display. And again, there are also some good test patterns out there to determine how bright of a light you will need for that environment. Joe Kane, in his HD Basics disc, has a test pattern that puts a white square up on the screen, and you're basically trying to match the light level coming off the screen of that white square to what the bias light's putting out from the sides, using like a light meter, simple light meter.
This is basically, do I want it coming out equally from all sides of the panel?
Ideally. I mean, it would be if you could, that would probably be the best way to do it. But it also depends too on, in this case we're in a corner with this particular display. Maybe you'd want a little bit brighter in the center, or maybe orient it vertically at the lighting system so that it puts the light, makes it a more even pattern on the back of the wall.
Have you ever seen a bias lighting kit? Because people talk about this all the time, but I don't think I've ever been anywhere. They're like, would you like to include the HDMI cable in a bias lighting kit with that, Mr. Norton?
That's a hard sell, and it's hard to show in a store environment anyway, where most stuff's bolted to the wall already. You'd have to do it in a home theater room, maybe something like here in the U.S. we have Magnolia Hi-Fi that's in our Best Buy stores, and they also have rooms that they could show off a system like that, but it's not as common as it's more important to have that light behind the screen literally than it is in front of the screen. So if you have a room where you just need a little bit of light in there, and you want to avoid getting reflections on the screen, a bias light just might be a way to add that light to the room without interrupting the picture or altering the picture.
Do you mount it right on the back of the HDTV, or do you put it on the shelf behind there, or do you strap it to the...
That depends on the setup situation, the scenario that you're involved in. If possible, double stick tape it to the back of the screen, as long as you're not covering any vent holes up or anything like that on the TV itself. But it really comes down to, in my mind, and the way I've seen it and the way I've used it, it's improving that black level appearance on a TV that has poor black levels. That's really what you're aiming at. 6,500K,
experiment with the location.
Yeah, and if possible, you're not going to find a dimmable situation. You're not going to usually find a dimming tube fluorescent lamp. So go for a lower wattage than you probably think you need.
Good to know. Our next question comes from Tack. He's looking to buy a Blu-ray player with Netflix streaming functionality. He was looking at either the LG BD390 or the Samsung BDP3600. Both are listed at $299 MSRP. However, now the PS3 offers Netflix with Wi-Fi capability and gaming features which look more attractive at the same price point. My main concern is whether the PS3 delivers the same quality of Blu-ray playback as the other Blu-ray players at the same price. Which one would you guys recommend? Tack, Columbus, Ohio. Okay, so let's answer the last question first. PS3, you consider it one of the finest, if not the finest.
It's a reference Blu-ray player.
Okay, it is the
really
reference.
Is. Yeah. I mean, for every Blu-ray player I've ever tested to date, I've put a 1080p test pattern or a 1080i pattern in. 1080p. I was starting with the original material that's encoded similar to how the Blu-ray discs are, and I get full resolution on those patterns, either motion or not. And also you can have the TV influence that as well. But without the TV being part of that equation, the players generally will spit out that full 1080p signal and get that detail onto the screen. The things I would consider really are, one, Are you dealing with a universal remote control environment? Now, there are new products for the PS3 that allow you to add, say, an IR port in order to gain control with, say, a Harmony-style universal remote or other
Harmony now has a PS3 adapter because the PS3 basically uses Bluetooth, which is not in most universal remote controls.
So that would be my main concern. The other is file format compatibility. If you really are going to be spending more time streaming, or at least as much time streaming files to your device as you are going to be watching Blu-ray movies, the LG 390 offers some pretty good file support, including some open source formats that the PS3 and the Samsung do not. And that's just one thing to keep in mind. Right. That, for me, is one of the key features. I believe all of the products that we've listed here are all DLNA compliant, meaning that if you have a home server that supports DLNA, you should be able to stream your pictures and supported video files, as well as music to that device and enjoy that in your living room as well.
Yeah. I got to say, all three of them are going to look amazing for Blu-ray playback. Personally, I would lean towards the LG 390. If I was buying a Blu-ray player today, the LG 390 is probably the strongest for me because I really like the fact that it not only has Netflix, but it also supports Vudu. And they're streaming HDX. If you have the network capacity to handle the downloads, the streaming loads for that, it is the best looking streaming HD you're going to be able to find.
That, and also if you need to stack another component on top of the Blu-ray player, it's difficult to do that with the PS3 with the curved top and everything. So that's one last thing to keep in mind. Also, power consumption. The PS3 is going to consume much more power than any of the other products we just talked about as well. We're talking probably an order of 10 times more power, which it's still not a lot, but it compares, say, 25 watts versus 125 watts. And well, I guess that's five times. It's not quite 10 times.
Ladies and gentlemen, sketch comedy, much like our ability to quote statistics, just got better. Revision 3 is proud to announce that we've got Landline TV on board. The Landline TV gang have been making great sketch comedy for a long time now, with hysterical bits ripped from the headlines and what's hot in pop culture today. Check this out.
Down! These your Cheetos?
Yeah, they're my Cheetos.
You're writing about them on the internet?
All we're doing is protecting people from posts that no one wants to read.
You got an iPhone!
Hi, Barack Obama. It sure is the Senate.
Since Mr. Madoff was arrested, we've been bringing him around the country so people can come by and hit him in the genitals.
I just remembered something terrible from my past, but I can't tell you what.
We all have secrets, Don. Let's smoke indoors.
You guys hit each other so much. Like right now, Jerry, you have an enormous mallet.
Be sure to check it out every Wednesday, revision3.com/landlinetv.
And we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of HD Nation. As always, we want to know what you think, so send your comments, questions, or suggestions to hdnation@revision3.com.
You can hang out with other viewers in the HD Nation forums. They're at revision3.com/forums.
And head over to hdnation.tv for show notes and links to everything we talked about on today's episode. And you'll also find all the links to subscribe to the show. So if you're not getting the latest episode of HD Nation delivered to your podcatcher, what are you waiting for?
Do us a favor, subscribe and watch. And until next time.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Robert Heron.
And I'm Patrick Dorton. We'll see you next week on HD Nation.